Hello everyone, this is Pedro from Pythalist again, and today we're going to talk about Azure Functions, but a different kind of Azure Function. It's Azure Function called Durable Functions. So why? I think first question is like to understand what a durable function is. You need to understand why would you do a durable function instead of doing a normal function. So I'll go back to what it is. Um, there is one thing, the way I came across durable function is I was in a project where we had to run a HTTP trigger Azure function, but it would time out because the code that it was running would be more than 230 seconds because that's the maximum amount of time that a HTTP trigger function can take to respond to a request. So very common pattern is you create an endpoint where you trigger with a post or a get request with some parameters, and then the function does something, and then once that thing that you asked it to do, a task, it kind of like respond and say task was complete with some kind of response. Depending on the plan that you have, the default timeout is 5 minutes, which is considerably enough for most of the things, and 10 minutes is the maximum. And even if you go premium dedicated, it's unlimited. But if you are using a trigger, maybe the durable function is the solution here to run your code as serverless. Now that you understand why, so here's a definition of what a durable function is from the Azure documentation. Durable functions is an extension of Azure function that lets you write stateful functions in a serverless compute environment. The extension lets you define stateful workflows by writing orchestrator functions and stateful entities by writing entity functions using the Azure function programming model. Behind the scenes, the extension manages state, checkpoints, and restarts for you, allowing you to focus on your business logic. So basically, there are some patterns here. Like, well, I think the core of Azure function is the orchestration function, which will, depending on the pattern, sometimes you wanted to do something and use that something into another thing. And this is like a chaining pattern. We have like fan out pattern where you run something and then you do a lot of things in parallel, and then you do after those in parallel things finish, you do another thing. So let's go. I think the idea of this tutorial here is to show you how you do it and how to create one. I'm not going to deploy the function in production in this video because I've done a video already about it. Um, a normal function, and the deployment of a durable function in a normal function is exactly the same. So if you wanted to know about it, you click in the link above here. I'm going to post a video that I've done very briefly, step by step. And before I start the demo, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the bell. So let's go. I'm gonna follow this tutorial here. I'm going to put in the description of the video, but pretty much I'll do it step by step with you guys. Let me just open my terminal here. I think I've got it open. Before I start, there is some prerequisites that you need to have to follow this tutorial, and these are the prerequisites. I'm using Virtual Studio Code. You have to have installed in your system the extension for the Azure function, and then you also have to have in your system the Azure Function Core Tools. Durable functions require Azure Storage account. You need to have an Azure subscription because it does some queuing, and you need to have one of those Python versions installed on your computer. If you have all that, you are all set. So I do have. Let's start a fresh new directory, mkdir call it durable function, and yes, and then I'll cd into that, and then I'll put code dot, which is Visual Studio Code. It's a fresh start. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use this extension here to create a new function. So I'm connected to my subscription here already, which is good. Let me just now start a new function. So you can start from here, but because we are doing a durable function, it's better to start from the palette, because we're gonna create a new project and then install the pip durable function, and then three functions. The durable function is a little bit more complicated because there is a minimum, the pattern that I'm doing here, there is a minimum of three functions. You have to have, I'll explain one by one and explain which one, what each one of them will do. So to install using your command palette in your Visual Studio Code, you press Ctrl+Shift+P, and then you just type in, it'll come up here. Azure Functions will find, I've already used it, but you just put create a new project. And then you choose the current location, and then choose Python, and then virtual environment interpreter. I'm gonna use 3.9. And then it's gonna, and then the last step, which is what function you want to create, you say skip for now. So what this is gonna do, it's gonna create a boilerplate here. But the first thing you have to do is you have to install Azure Functions Durable. Just gonna copy here. Just go to your requirements.txt file, write Azure Functions Durable, and then you can close. And then you activate the environment, which is source, and then vamp bin activate. So that's activated, 3.9. I've got version 4 of the Azure function. And then after that, one thing that I always like to do before start anything is to update pip, which is Python and pip install, upgrade pip. Okay, it's already updated. After that, I'm gonna install those requirements here. So, which is Python, not Python, pip install r requirements txt. And then if I do that, oops, typo here, pip install. And then what it's gonna do, it's gonna install all the requirements that's in this file, which is pretty much Azure Functions and all the dependencies as well. So once that's installed, and then if you follow the tutorial, you can then, we are already here, you can start creating functions, okay? The first function is orchestration function. All right, and then I'm gonna now use that little thing here. I can use the command palette, but let's use here. So the first one you have to do is do a durable function, the type orchestrator, and then I'm just gonna call it function orchestrator. You can call it anything you want. Yeah, let's put the Pascal case is fine. And then that's gonna create those files here. Can you see a folder called function orchestrator? Inside this folder, you have don't need to worry about this, which tells like more details about that function, and then the script file, which is init.py. And then init.py is where the orchestration does. And then I'll get to that later. So the second one that you have to create is the activity function. Let's do it. Click here, click here, and then you would look for durable function activity. Let's call it hello, which is like a hello world, which is pretty much returns hello, name is the parameter that you're passing. And then the last one is the HTTP trigger durable, which is the durable function HTTP starter. Let's call it, I'll call it HTTP start. And then the authentication you put anonymous for this is fine. All right, now we have everything. So I'll just explain now how the function works. So the pattern that we are going to do is this one, async HTTP pattern. So we have a starter that's gonna start to do some work. And once that work starts, we can use that same functions to check the status of this or the state of this work. That's here, and then we're just gonna keep on checking until it's done. So we have the HTTP start that receives a request, create this durable orchestration client, and then that function starts to, it triggers the orchestration. This one just triggers the orchestration. And then create that response client here where you can monitor that here. And then you can kind of create new various endpoints, and then you can check the status. And I'm going to show you, when you see, you will understand better. And then the orchestrator then orchestrates the tasks. So we have a hello task here. The task function is the function that actually do what you wanted to do. And the orchestrator orchestrates. So the orchestrator, what it's gonna do, it's gonna dispatch those three activities. They're gonna dispatch the hello function, and then pass a parameter here, Tokyo, Seattle, and London. And then it's going to return that. And then at the end, we can monitor with the HTTP start. Let's debug this. So to debug locally, as I said, you need to have a storage account, because you use that as a queue, even working on your local. There is another alternative that's called Azure, but I'm not going to use Azure in this video. It can be a little bit tricky to configure, but let's use Azure Function or a storage account for this example. I already have one, so you should have a provision one to do this tutorial yourself. So first press F5, and then first thing that's going to notice that in order to proceed, you must connect a storage account for internal use by the Azure Function runtime. And then you put, this is the local emulator that I told, but let's use a storage account. And then it's going to detect that I'm connected to Azure, and then it's going to find storage accounts that I connect to. I'm just going to connect to, let's connect to this one. It doesn't matter, it can be anyone. And then it's connected. Now it started the function, and it's kind of like starting the server and everything. Yeah, and then it gives you that endpoint here. And then I'm just gonna copy up to here and then paste in Postman. So I have a new request here. And then after that orchestrator slash, you have to copy the name of the orchestrator function, which is function orchestrator. I'm just going to copy this. And then you can, and then you can send the request. When I send a request, I received that response here with a ID of the orchestrator run. And then I have a status query get URI where I can check the status of my function. And then I'm gonna query this endpoint. Can you see that's completed? I'm gonna now refactor that code to make it less, at least more than 10 seconds or 20 seconds. What I'm gonna do is, and then you kind of will understand better. I'm just gonna copy, and I'll code along, but I'll copy here with you. And then I can leave the server and the debugger running. So the first thing that I'm gonna change the HTTP start in a way that I can receive a parameter. So, and then I'll pass this parameter that I receive in the starter to the orchestrator. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a variable called params that I'm gonna get from the body, okay, of the request that's incoming in this endpoint here. I'm just gonna get the JSON, and then it's gonna be something like this. I'm gonna pass the names, and then it's gonna be a list of names. So let's say I'll call it John and then Mary. Yeah. Okay, so, and then I'm gonna to call it names, which is like a dictionary, and then it's gonna be params names. Okay. Cool. I'm just gonna delete that because this is just to, and then this just to demonstrate how the body is gonna be, and then I'm just gonna pass the names to these here, and then the orchestrator can receive. So that's it for the HTTP start, and then I now go to the orchestrator, and I'm just gonna make it more dynamic. I'm just going to create, so I'm just gonna do parallel task. So call it, I'm gonna dispatch everything in parallel. And then I'm just gonna copy this one, and then you can see. So first, sorry, before that, I'm just gonna, there's a context object that's passed here, and then I have access to that request, that input that's passed here. So that's available for me in the context, and then I'm just gonna get that input and save to a variable. And then I'm just gonna pass this variable here, create, I'm just gonna create that task hello 3 times. And then I'm just gonna put the parallel task. And then I'm just gonna wrap around this context task all. Did I spell it here? No. It's task. And then I'm going to return the results. Cool. And then I'm just gonna change a little bit just to that we can follow and the execution of the Azure the task. So I'm just gonna put I have to stop and install something here. But anyway, if you wouldn't had to install anything, you didn't have to do it. So I'm gonna to use the time zone thing to time it, because it's usually it's good to track UTC and then convert to your local. So let's install this Python package that's called. Go to the requirements here, and then I go pytz, which is Python time zone. And then I'm going to go to the hello again. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste, and then it's gonna be better. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna log to that I'm processing someone's name. Sorry. Here. So just put that indentation that I'm processing this person's name. And then I'm going to sleep for 10 seconds. So the way we can, I need to import time as well, which is standard library. And then I'm just gonna time this one. It's gonna say, I'm just gonna copy this line here. So what I'm saying here, it's starting at whatever is UTC, and then I'm gonna log processing name of the person. It's gonna be John, the first one, and then it's gonna finish, and then after finished, I'm gonna say execution time. I'm just gonna calculate my local time, which is not Sydney, I'm in Adelaide. And then it's gonna log in finishing name at execution in seconds. And then it's gonna return name. And then I can put something like, I'm just gonna have an emoji here, like a fire. And then you can see in the, so what we need to do now, I think we are ready to go. So I'm going to stop the server now, the debugger. And then I have to install the requirements that's missing here, which is pytz. Yeah, I had the cache. So I think it's good to go. Let's now start again. F5. It's gonna start. I don't think it's gonna complain now because I have the, yeah, it's all good. So on the Postman, what I'm going to do here, I'm gonna close this one. I'm going to put as a post request, and in the body, I'm just gonna pass that JSON, which is gonna be, I think it's names. Let's put John and Mary. John, comma, Mary. Cool. And then you can then send that to the server, and then it looks like it's working. And then it says, because it's in parallel, it starts both at the same time. It's processing John and Mary. And okay, John in 10 seconds, in 10 seconds, and it's finished. Let's do it again. But this time put like, I don't know, Ricardo. Let's try again. But this time I'm going to click that link and then put send. It says running input John, Mary, and Ricardo. And then I keep on checking and it's still running. And at the end, yeah, it's completed and it gets the output. Hello, Mary. Hello, Ricardo. Hello, John. So this is basically Azure Function. I think the video is getting too long, but I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, put the comments down the link down the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button and subscribe and click the bell. That would be great. Thanks for watching again.